Are you ready to share your message in a bigger way? Join the Video Influencer Bootcamp, where you will graduate with 5 ready to rock videos. Visit bootcamp.wellworld.tv.
Hey everyone, welcome to Lillian Live in New York. So glad you're here. We have an amazing show today. You know, I live here in New York City, and today we have a very, very special person who's going to be speaking, and he is what I call the people's paramedic. He is saving lives left and right. He's been going to work during this whole pandemic in New York City, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I feel like, you know, when we do the awards for Hollywood, he needs to get an award. And he's unbelievable, and he's my friend, and you have to meet him. Fellow New Yorker, I'm going to introduce now Joey Hudak. Hi, Joey.
Hey,
How
Lil.
are you?
I'm doing okay. Lil just got off of work a little while ago, so just
You
relaxing, kicking back.
now look at that smile. How are you smiling like that when you're dealing with everything you're dealing with?
Because I'm getting a little bit of a break, which is nice. So, and I'm gonna probably have a nice Bud Light later. So,
Well, I want to tell the viewers that, you know, you were featured in People magazine about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. What was that all about?
basically, they were looking for a paramedic with a little experience. I got 30 years as a medic, and they wanted to compare this pandemic with 9/11, the first bombing in '93. I was down there for that, and then the 2001 bombing. Um, I have a lot of experience as a medic, so they were trying to get a hold on which was worse, which is kind of compare it, and I've seen a lot in my 30 years, my 32 years in the EMS.
Yeah. And so you they found you, and then you did your
I was
article.
the I was a lucky guy, I guess. So they were looking for the dinosaur. They got me.
So since this broke out here in New York City, which has been the epicenter, you've been on call, not on call, but you've been working every day, 16 hours a day.
It's it's been
Tough.
crazy. It really has. I mean, we're talking. I mean, there's some days where there's 7 days straight where I'm working 16-hour days, sleeping at the station, and it's been nuts. Thank God it's finally slowing down right now because there's no way you can go like this for a couple months. Forget it. Half my rescue truck, half the guys are out sick, and had to cover the slots for the city, from Manhattan, the Bronx, and Queens, which the Bronx and Elmhurst they were getting decimated.
Yes.
It's been nuts. It really's been crazy.
And how many calls do you think you had a day, like when it was going nuts?
With the meat potatoes, when it was going crazy, we're doing 12, 16-hour tours. We're getting anywhere between 10, 16 calls a day. Uh, Cardiac arrest, where we normally maybe get one, two a week, we're getting 4 or 5 a day. It was just insane.
And were these people, the cardiac arrest, were they all ages? Like what were the ages and people like?
They differed. Mostly a lot of the elderly, but you had people in the 40s, the 30s, the 50s getting sick and going right to cardiac arrest. And you're going in there, working them up 20 minutes, and you're not getting anything. No assistedly flatline. You're not getting anything back. And these people they're just getting decimated. You would walk in at a time. Sometimes you had two patients, the husband and a wife, both of them. I'm like, you pronounce the husband, you're working on the wife. It's horrible.
Wow. And obviously you had to be all suited up, right? What you
Yeah,
were wearing?
the first 2 weeks we were running low on N95, so we were using whatever we could.
The
Uh,
masks.
the mask, yeah. Well, we were gowning up, of course. Shields, we're using anything we can get. We got the shields later on through a couple of very nice donations, face shields,
Yep.
because this is a hidden enemy. You cannot see it. That's what's scary about it. You know where it's coming from. You could be working with. It's scary too. Is you could be working with somebody, a new partner, where the person was getting infected. They didn't even know they were asymptomatic without symptoms, and you turn around, they had the COVID-19. You don't even know. So it was very scary.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the beginning, because, you know, now there's some semblance, there's some tests, there's things, but you went right in, you were courageous enough to go right into the fire, really.
Me and my coworkers, they're all very courageous. I'm surrounded by a great bunch of people that are working for EMS, and they do this job not for the pay. They do it for for saving lives, helping people. And I'm surrounded by a bunch of really good people. So I love my job. It's the people I work with makes it much easier. So.
Well, I'm sure they really appreciate you too, because you have a great attitude. Tell me, so how did you manage not to get COVID in all the time and all the people you've seen?
Being very careful. I'm double gloving. I wear sometimes 2 respirator masks when I go in. Trying to be outside as much as possible. We get the patient. We try to get him out of the enclosed area, because UV light does kill this thing after a while. It really does. But just once actually after a couple of weeks, I got corporate housing, which I was able to. It's 15 minutes from the station, so I'm able to get at least 6-7 hours sleep a night. That's the big thing, getting a lot of sleep.
Right.
Eating healthy, you're trying to build the immune system up, because if you're doing 7 days a week, you're not getting sleep, you're going to wear yourself down, you're going to get sick.
Sure.
You really are. I consider myself very lucky, but I mean, bleaching. If I don't die from this, I'm going to die from the bleaching. I swear to God. All the bleach we use, it's
the
crazy.
bleach. Where are you using the bleach? You mean in the truck?
Every call, we have to bleach down the vehicle, bleach down. I have to wash the clothes again. My uniform's completely. I got 5 sets completely bleached out. I have to go to quartermaster to get a new set now. But just every time you go through a patient, you have to bleach everything out. I actually use a UV light I've been using in the vehicle. Actually kills 99.9% of the viruses. After every call, we put the UV light on. That's working. That's helped me out. Just anything. Just being very cautious. Being outside as much as possible, and being very subdued. I mean, you have to see what's around you. You look at the area, you walk in. All right, this guy's coughing right away. Mask goes on him, on you, and even when we cardiac arrest, when we intubate somebody, we have to use different filters so we don't get the. It's all in the air. You have to be very, very careful. It's dangerous and very scary. You're walking in doing a cardiac arrest, like, all right, this person's infected, and you're trying to keep yourself and your coworkers from getting infected. So it's very scary. It is.
You think using double gloves makes a difference?
What happens? I use double gloving it because after I would work on the patient, I would take the gloves off. I have a new set of gloves, so now I have to grab the equipment. I'm constantly changing gloves. You're always constantly changing gloves on this job, especially during the pandemic, because you're going to cross-contaminate. Let's say you grab the patient, then you grab your partner, grab the stretcher. Now you just transfer the disease over to the stretcher. So you have to be very, very careful.
Yeah, you have to think about every little thing.
It's cross-contamination. That's going to be one of the biggest things. People don't realize it. You can't see it.
Yes, you mentioned to me earlier that we should wear gloves and masks. I wear masks outside. In the beginning, I was wearing gloves when I went out, especially to the supermarket. Then I stopped wearing gloves because if I have my gloves and I'm touching everything, and I just thought, let me not wear gloves, and I'm going to come home and wash my hands. Do you think that's not good?
The problem is you should wash your hands right after you touch anything. Like people travel the subways, the trains, the buses. That's where they're catching the diseases from. Inside, if you go down the subway with the ventilation, you better be wearing a mask. Outside's not too bad. Like I said, UV light tends to kill it. If you're right in somebody's face and they cough you, you're going to get it. But if you're by yourself, I don't think the mask is that important. It's important if walking around with other people, but pretty much outside, if you've got a pretty healthy immune system, that's the main thing that's gonna help you out.
Hey, Joey. So you were saying you were picking up 16 calls a day. You had some cardiac arrest people, and you had other people. What were the other people like that weren't cardiac arrest?
I tell you, most of the people were very respiratory distress. asthmatics, COPDs, people, elderly patients with some type of immune compromise, a lot of homeless people who were very, very sick. And we know all these people are infected. And it's just, we get in there. It's like, all right, let's, we got to protect ourselves first. Make sure we don't want to come home with this. We're going to work on the patient, and even giving them like nebulized treatments. We have special nebulizers which don't give out a mist, because all that mist is going to be coming from his lungs, and it's all infected, and he's going to affect the whole bus. So you have to take every type of precaution. They got to the point where a normal cardiac arrest, they only limited it to 20 minutes. And we would have to call up every time we have to pronounce somebody. We're not getting anything back. We would call up the doctors and get the pronouncement time. But we could wind up at this time now, we were getting like 4 or 5 cardiac arrests a day, and we were calling it ourselves. We didn't even have to call. But we can do the same thing emergency room can do with a cardiac arrest. I said all the same medications, pretty much most of the stuff. And if we weren't getting them back, it's because of the COVID. Pronounce them, go back to the station, completely disinfect the whole bus and vehicle, change clothes, and go back out and do it again. Another 16 hours so. And it just got crazy, because I must have gone through 30 cardiac arrests where we just weren't getting anything back. And
you mean no pulse? No pulse.
No, we wanted pronouncing them. 30 cardiac arrests. And we're like, what, are we doing something wrong? It's not us. It was because COVID-19. And after maybe the 30th arrest, we finally got a 92-year-old lady back, but she probably wasn't even COVID. She was just in her cardiac arrest, and we got her right back right away. It was like, all right, maybe she's not COVID. And she wasn't. But the COVID was doing a lot of damage, let me tell you.
And you didn't have, none of you had any training for this, like for you to know. I mean, I know it's common sense. Don't, put 2 gloves, but I mean, how do you don't even have any training?
I've got a lot of experience. And remember in 2001, the Rockaways, flight 287 went down, 260 people got killed instantly. I was on the scene. We tagged 100 bodies within an hour, and we wound up finding all 260 bodies that night. And that was a horrible call for me that night. And I mean, through the years of experience where, you see a lot, you see people die on you. It prepared me a little for this. A lot of the new guys, I mean, our service, 75% of the guys are maybe on not even 5 years. And these guys got thrown right into the fire. And I feel bad for the newer guys, because all of a sudden they got just unleashed into this drama, especially the new class that came out. They're like, what's going on? They've never seen anything like this in their lives. And they're young too and inexperienced. And they got overwhelmed a lot. And I give them, a lot of guys, a lot of credit for hanging in there. And a lot of them need to take a break too. I mean, I've seen a lot, and it prepared me a little for this. It still does get overwhelming to everybody. Trust me, nobody's immune from this. I mean, it gets bad. You time to say, hey, time out. I need a break. And
Did you say that you were in the water tagging people from that flight? What does that mean?
No, I wasn't in the water. That landed in the Rockaways on land. But we were going through the rubble, and it came straight down. And me and a bunch of EMTs, medics, and firefighters, we tagged within an hour. We had 100 bodies tagged, had them in body bags, and we were putting them on the street so they could take them to another place. And we just, within an hour, we had over 100 bodies. We're like, whoa, we're finding all these bodies, because they were in a small area. And they found pretty much all 260 bodies that night. That was a bad call that night.
That was the plane crash in Long Island.
That was the plane crash off the Rockaways, correct?
Right. Wow.
I mean, just different experiences. 9/11, 93, you had over 1,000 patients. Only 6 people died for that.
Right, I remember.
Along, and we're like, all right, 3,000 people died. After the second day, we weren't finding any survivors, and it became into a rescue recovery mission. That's all, recovering bodies, and that was horrible too.
I remember the trucks with bags lined up on First Avenue, and it turned out there were no bodies. I remember all that.
Hospital, they brought the emergency room outside, and they're waiting and nobody's coming. They're like, what's going on? There should be people coming. And they were all dead.
I remember. What is the difference between 911 and paramedic? Like
I'm sorry.
when you call
The difference between
911?
an EMT and a paramedic?
Yes.
Okay, so EMT is basic life support. They can get on a case, somebody's in cardiac arrest, they can defibrillate with a AED. It's an automatic external defibrillator, and they take care of basic life supports. A paramedic is ALS, advanced life support. We can do a lot more where we're trained in pharmacology, cardiology. We go through these different intubations, with procedures, intubations, defibrillations. If we have to open up the airway, it's almost like having an open trach. We can open an airway up over here. If he has a collapsed lung, I can do a needle decompression. If I can't get an IV and for the veins, I can actually go into the bone marrow with an IO gun.
Huh.
There's a lot of different things. A paramedics in more advanced life support. We're using about 25 different pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, you have to know the indications, contraindications of all these medications, what they can do, what they can't do. Pretty much, it's like emergency room doctor. We're bringing the emergency room to the patient's house.
So when my back goes out and I can't walk, can I call you? Because I called 911 thinking, oh, they're going to give me a shot or they're going to help me. And they really didn't. They took me to my bed and that was it. And I had to call the doctor. So how do I call you when my back goes out?
It goes through a triage situation. Paramedics are mostly needed with like asthmatics, cardiac arrests, anaphylactic reactions. We have medications that can counteract that. If you have a back injury, they're going to probably send a BLS, and BLS will actually call for a paramedic. Because we do carry narcotics on us. But a lot of times we get that when people get crushed or get their bones broken, we can get medications to help sedate the pain on them, sedate the patient. Really, we want to make that pain a little bit less on a patient, so we can sedate the patient. And then if we have to intubate them, we can also sedate them. Something called RSI, rapid sequence intubation, where we'll sedate them, then we'll paralyze them, then we'll intubate them, and we can put them on a ventilator too.
You know, speaking of intubation, because this COVID thing is all new to everyone, I know in the beginning they were doing a lot of intubations, and then I think there was research that when you do get an intubation or you're on the vent, a lot of people don't end up surviving. And are they still doing those intubations?
If the person needs to be intubated in the field, we have to intubate them. Absolutely. They try to stay away in the hospitals. It's in a hospital where the people getting a little worse, where if they have to intubate them, they would have to intubate them because their O2 sats would go down below 70, 60, 50. Then you have
the oxygen, O2?
The oxygen level, yes. The pulse oximetry measures the O2 saturation. And they have to intubate them. And a lot of times these people, the high pressure didn't do good with this disease. It's not good with high pressure. So they would actually try to put them on CPAP with a viral filter in a consolidated room. Sometimes that would work. A lot of it was positioning, putting the patient prone, different positions with the patient, medications, plasma, all these different medications. It's an infection. They have to cure the infection. If you try to stay away from intubations, because a lot of people that get intubated really never came off. They wound up dying. It's true. But there was a lot of people that did come off the intubations too, which is good.
I felt like in the beginning there was no rhyme or reason to this. I know that a lot of obese people, it's hitting obese people, it's hitting diabetics. And I thought, wow, how's this young 30-year-old dying from this? And then, I felt like there was no rhyme or reason. Did you see a lot of that?
This disease, it actually mutated into different strains, where you start going into coagulation problems. A lot of people were clotting. One guy lost his arm because he developed a clot. And it's different mutations, different strains, and you get young people who have asthma, and it can he'll tear a 20-year-old guy, big, strong army guy. He'll take him right apart. If he has asthma, it's going to hit the lungs. This disease, if you got a lung problem, COPD or asthma, it does not like it at all.
Interesting. So what would you, and you, by the way, I know you not only worked in New York, in the city, you were working in Queens and the Bronx. Tell us about that.
Well, I do a lot of overtime in the Bronx on a rescue truck because they were
Overtime?
down.
How do you have time for overtime when you're working 16 hours a day?
Basically, what happened was a lot of the guys on the rescue trucks, they lost about maybe a third to half of the guys got sick, and they need rescue medics to work the rescue trucks. So they always call me up, and I'm not going to tell them no, I can't do it. My days off, I would do the overtime, come in and do the overtime. Basically, I was staying at the station, so I wasn't going home anyway. Don't want to give my girlfriend, she has asthma. I don't want to give her anything. So they call me. Yeah, I'm answering the call. I'm fine. I mean, I'm right here. Sure. Send me in, coach, ready to play.
Did you see any difference between Queens, Bronx, and Manhattan?
Yeah, let me tell you, the Bronx and Queens, they were a war zone. A war zone.
Really?
Brooklyn was getting hit hard too, but I mean, up in Manhattan, even low Manhattan, just the first month, everybody was getting hurt. It went from 3,500 calls to 4,500 to 5,500. 65, we're like, you got to be kidding me. Then the one night it hit over 7,000 calls, we were like, I've never seen it hit over 7,000 calls. Even on 9/11, they weren't at 7,000.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah. They had maybe 6,000, but 7,000 calls, that's unheard of. That's just, it was just nonstop. But like Elmhurst, that was a war zone. The Bronx, they got hit harder. They really did. But you have a lot more asthmatics, COPDs, more congenital diseases up there. And if you have some type of COPD, asthma, diabetes, obesity, you get this disease, you're in trouble.
And also more people like living, it's living on top of each other and more dense, right?
Basically, like if you have any big housing projects where you have 300, 400, 500 people living in one building, yeah, you're coming down the elevator instead of living in a separate house. Yeah, of course, you're going to be more susceptible to getting this disease because it's all over the building. People coming up and down, and you got to be careful. These huge buildings, they're going to house a lot of COVID patients.
I understand that people. I read something about like up in the Bronx that the percentage of people getting COVID is almost double in New York City because they're not really they're not practicing. They're not.
I see a lot of young kids today, and I feel bad because the old folks are practicing it. They're living in the same buildings, and these young kids are out running around. And they're like, "Oh, we're young, we can't get it." That was their first thought. So a lot of these young kids didn't care, so they're running around, no masks, no gloves. They're grabbing everything and they're bringing it back to the buildings, and they're giving it to everybody else. They don't even realize it.
Yes.
But they were going in and giving it to the parents. That's why you got to be careful. And they have a lot of kids it's the younger kids. They have somewhat of a healthier, better immune system than their parents because they're younger. They can fight diseases off better. But if they have asthma or COPD, they're in big trouble. I mean,
right. What do you think was your worst out of all this? Like your worst case, or I mean,
I had a couple of them. Well, we walk in, we had 2 patients, and the main thing is we walk in and we see that they're kids. They're 20, 30 years old, and we're like, once you say goodbye to your parents, because we didn't, it's like you may not see them because we couldn't bring anybody to the hospital when the COVID-19 hit because they didn't want to bring any family members in because they don't want anybody getting infected. So we were bringing these patients by themselves, and they're all by themselves. And this is probably the last time that these kids were going to see their parents, their mother or father. That was the bad part about it. That was horrible.
What was wrong with the kids that they had COVID? Were they compromised?
The kids had called up knowing their parents had COVID, and they don't want to send them to the hospital, knowing but their O2 stats were like in the 70s. They were having trouble breathing. We have to do a last ditch effort to try to save them. So we would bring them to the hospital, and a lot of times they would wind up getting intubated a day later, and then on the intubation, maybe 3 days later, died. And that was the last time that the family members got to see their mother or father. And
Right.
that's the bad part about it.
Right.
It was horrible. Your heart goes out to these people, and especially when we have to come in, we have to take the mother and the father. Sometimes you had two of them were infected. It was just terrible.
And when you would get to the hospital, then
Yeah.
what do you do when you get to the hospital? You bring them through the emergency room? Like, how did that all work?
We would have to get them screened first. We tell them, okay, this is the patient. We have to make sure they're all isolated. We'll bring them in. They had a special, sometimes later on, they set the tents up. We would bring them in the tents. But before that, we have to bring them in through the emergency room, through a triage center. And they would triage them, and they would check the temperature. And through a certain amount of triage, they would set them in certain places. Oh, they had different situations at the hospital. As it got worse, like I walked into Elmhurst the one time, and the whole emergency room, the main floor, there wasn't patients. All these patients, you had 30 patients intubated on ventilators. And it looked like a war zone. It was like unsurreal. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Yeah, they were in the hallways and stuff, right?
You had the main emergency room was all where you work on and everybody. They had it all set up with like 30 patients on ventilators, and they were making makeshift rooms. They took the pediatric center and made it another room for COVID patients and put the pediatric kids somewhere else. They were trying to make room everywhere else, and they were set like that's why they made makeshift tents up in Central Park, which I didn't last too long, but it was something. But they were just running out of room, and they got overwhelmed. Pretty much. I mean, we definitely got overwhelmed. Weren't expecting it to hit as hard as it was. So, and I don't want to sound sarcastic, but when it probably hits again, hopefully it will be a lot better. So we're much better prepared, because it's going to hit again. It's going to come. You're going to have rises and falls with people, because people right now are going out, they're walking around without no masks, no gloves. It's going to get worse, and it's going to get better. It's going to get worse. It's going to get better. You have to find a medium. I mean, hopefully with the summer, with the heat and everything else, the outside weather, it doesn't seem to do good with the heat, with the sun shimmy, not with the heat, with the UV light. So
you think this is going to be around for a while until we get a vaccine?
My personal feeling, yeah. It should. Hopefully, people start listening a lot better. Wearing the mask, their gloves, obeying certain laws. We're going to come up with something. We have to. I mean, it's going to take a while, though. How long? I don't know.
Let me ask you. Go ahead.
It's scary.
I was going to. Go ahead.
I say this is very scary. I had some guy come up to me the other day in 7-Eleven. And he's screaming. I told him, I said, "Why don't you put your mask on?" And he's just saying, "When is this going to end?" I'm like, "I don't know. What do you want?" He was an emotionally disturbed person, and I said, "I really don't know. So I wish I could tell you, buddy."
Yeah. Do you think a lot of, so you mentioned homeless before, because I see them out on the street and they don't have masks on, right? I'm thinking they're all going to have it.
There's a lot. We're getting a lot of people now actually jumping off bridges, jumping off buildings. A lot of homeless, a lot of EDPs.
What's EDP?
We call it excited delirium. It's usually for people who actually emotionally disturbed people, but we have EDP protocols for excited delirium. If someone gets very excited or stressed out, we can actually sedate them with some medication to calm them down. But you have people that do have emotional problems, and they're emotionally disturbed slightly, and they need help. And let me tell you, this pandemic, it's not only the people outside, the cops, the firemen, the paramedics, EMTs. We need some time down too, because it's overwhelming. Trust me. We've had people come walking in. I mean, rough days, 12-hour days, 16-hour days, and they're like, they're done.
Well, I was
They
going to
need like
say you guys must be eventually emotionally disturbed after all this. What happens?
it's
what happens with you?
you come home, and as long as you can say you did the best possible job you could, I'm fine with that. Um, we see a lot of people die on this job too, and I tell the new guys when I work with them after we get through, like with the pediatric arrest especially, and those are the most challenging calls and horrible calls, where we lost last year. We lost one out for a bad train accident, and I told my partner, he was a new guy, I said, listen, we did the best possible job, and that's all you can do. It's in God's hands. That's all. There's nothing you do. But as long
You
as you know you did the best possible job, I can go home, I can sleep comfortable at night. That's because
right.
I enjoy my job. I love what I do. And sometimes it's not a job to me, it's a calling.
Right. Well, that's why you're so amazing at what you do. We need like 100 million more Joey Hudak.
No, there's a lot. Let me tell you, we have a lot of amazing people I work with, and I can't even begin to say all the names of them. And they really are great guys. A couple guys we missed who retired: Corey Romanowski, Don Faith, Don Hudson, James Fowler,
Yeah.
Jimmy Baker. They're very smart guys, and they're all retired. And then, I mean, I would love to have a couple of those guys with me right now.
Well, I think like I said earlier, I think you all should be for the awards next year instead of it being Hollywood. I think it should be all you guys. I'm not kidding.
No, I think so.
I had two more questions. Have you been picking up children? Because I know children are getting COVID too, like weird symptoms.
We been picking up not too many. I picked one up the other day, a 2-year-old seizure. I don't believe it was COVID related. I can't go into that HEPA violations also.
Okay.
But it's rare that we pick up a child, especially with the new type of strain going out, with the coagulations going on, the rashes.
Yeah.
But it's rare with kids. It is very rare. But most of them are just now it's getting back. Right now we're getting less COVID patients, and we're getting more EDPs, more jumpers out off the bridge into the East River, the Hudson River. We're picking a lot of them up the past couple of weeks.
Are you going in the river?
I was in the river the year before last year. Someone jumped in. There was nobody, and normally would wait to a Marine would get their harbor, or we're training water rescue. So we have a life vest. I jumped in, swam out 150 feet, had a fireman come out with the tether line. We brought her back in, tubed the line, intubated, shocked her, brought her to the hospital. Most of the time, sometimes we can't get her back, sometimes you do, but we make a try for it. But we do the best we can. So
Aren't you like a Navy SEAL?
no, far from it. I wish.
I think
I do water rescue on the side.
On the side. What side left do you
my
have?
side jobs. My side. I've been diving for 30 years. I'm very comfortable in the water, Lil. I got gills.
I don't know how many more sides you have. You're making me look like I can't even cook an egg. So one of my last questions is, so I normally, I don't even know if I've ever had the flu. Maybe when I was little, I don't even know, but I don't even get the flu shot, not for any reason, just because I don't.
Okay.
But I'm thinking about getting the flu shot in the fall, because if COVID's coming back, I don't want to maybe get the flu and then COVID. So any thoughts on that?
You're gonna get the flu shot. Make sure you're healthy, because you want to get a flu shot when you're sick. Okay.
You want to get the flu shot when you're healthy, you said.
When you're healthy, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I pretty much I hopefully through diet and exercise, I keep healthy. A lot of breathing exercises, vitamin C. I juice a lot of fruits and vegetables. I try to get a good 7 hours sleep at night at least, and just get outside once in a while, exercise, keep busy.
Yeah.
Anything to boost the immune system.
Oh yes, I have some things that I take for the immune system.
I think I tell you, really, the only reason I think I didn't get infected because I'm doing this job over 30 years. I've come in contact with a lot of sick people. I think I've built up hopefully a good immunity system where I can be able to fight this off. So that's what I'm hoping.
Oh yeah, you know what else? And I'm gonna say from one person to another. A couple of years ago, I had a cancer. I'm fine now. I'm good now. But
Wow, okay.
yeah, I'm good. But one
God
thing that
bless.
I recognize is you have a very good attitude. You're always smiling, and I also have a good attitude, and I had a good attitude. And between the good attitude and all my friends and family, they got me through it. And you have such a great attitude.
Thanks, Lord.
Really, it's amazing. So, well, I want to let everybody know that if you want to get in touch with the People's Paramedic, Joey Hudak, you're going to have to go through me. Because, we're not putting up his information at the moment. But if you do want to get in touch, you can go through me, Lillian Live in New York. And remember to like Well World TV. And Joey, this was amazing, fantastic. Really, I've learned a lot, and
Okay.
I'm amazed at who you are and what you do every day. And I'm gonna call you when my back goes out.
Okay. You may get my twin brother.
Okay. Thanks so much. Thank
Lil,
you.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, son. All right. You be safe. All right. Take care
You
and stay
too.
healthy.
Thank you,
Okay.
everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Are you ready to share your message in a bigger way? Join the Video Influencer Bootcamp, where you will graduate with 5 ready to rock videos. Visit bootcamp.wellworld.tv.